this video today, we're talking about dots on pistols. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Leupold Deltapoint Pro. Now this is a dot you've probably seen mounted on a lot of pistols. The reliability is second maybe only to the Trijicon RMR. It's got one of the biggest pieces of glass with one of the brightest well-defined dots or triangles that you can get in the current miniature red dot market. Now the Deltapoint Pro is really popular largely due to the big, beautiful window size of the glass. It's got one of the largest windows with one of the brightest, well-defined dots currently out there. And the housing is very robust, but it's also really tall, which makes the backup iron sights really tall as well. The adjustments are all very positive clicks. The warranty is very strong, and it has shake-awake technology, which makes it suitable for everyday carry, so it's always on when you need it, and it hopefully saves some battery when you don't. That said, the battery ranges from very good to kind of okay. I've got 3 of them now, and they vary widely in performance. So we'll just kind of dive in and expand on all those points. Now, as far as the glass is concerned, it is gorgeous. It is a huge, beautiful, clear piece of glass with almost no perceptible tint that won't color your target or what you're looking at. Now, a lot of these miniaturized red dots will tint the glass specifically to prolong the battery life, where it projects the little LED up onto the screen. The Deltapoint Pro doesn't do that, and as a result, the battery life isn't quite as robust as the Trijicon or perhaps the Holosun or any of the other dots that might have more of a bluish greenish tint to the glass. The upside of that is that it's like looking through a clear piece of glass. There is a slight reddish tint, but you really have to look for it to even notice it. Now, the big window, some people will say, is not a big deal. Those are usually people who own RMRs. The big window is a big deal if you're a competition shooter and you shoot strong hand only or weak hand only. I don't care what anyone says, if you run into a position with a gun in your support hand, your index is not going to be as well defined as it is freestyle or strong hand only. So the big piece of glass helps keep the dot on the screen and you don't lose the dot. You're less likely to be fishing for the dot in recoil or on presentations if you've got more real estate for the dot to roam. Now the dot is available in both a 2.5 MOA or a 7.5 Delta point MOA, which is a triangle. You really probably ought to check out both of those to see which one's more appealing to you. I use the 2.5 MOA. It's more popular in the US PSA circles, but that might not be for you. The controls on the dot are okay. Well, I'll just call it okay because the dot actually cycles up and down based on depressing the battery cap. So it will cycle all the way up and then all the way down. You can reverse the direction of the dot changing by depressing the button and holding it for a couple seconds, and then it'll start going the other way. This also acts as your power button to turn the dot on and off. You have to hold it down for about 5 seconds. But that said, the battery cap is brilliant. It is a toolless battery change, and you don't have to unmount the dot to get at the battery. So while the battery life isn't great, it literally takes about 30 seconds to change a battery. All you do is pull back on the little detente, the door pops open, the battery is magnetized to the battery cap, pull out the old battery, put in the new one, and you're back off to the races. It's probably more difficult to open the blister pack the batteries come in than it is to change the battery on the Deltapoint, which is a huge, huge plus. Despite how much I like the battery operation, I really could go for 2 buttons up and down to adjust brightness. Now, if you're a dot shooter, if you're shooting groups, you're going to want to dim your dot so where you're focusing very hard on your target and your dot is not dominating the target or blooming. Whereas if you're outside and there are different lighting conditions, maybe on different bays, if you're shooting a match, you may need to fully adjust the dot up for one stage in one full sun bay, and then you get into a partially shaded bay and that's just way too much bloom and you need to adjust it down. So having better adjustability would be nice, but the one upside of that is you can't accidentally adjust the brightness. You really have to intentionally adjust it. So that is kind of a positive and a negative. Now, as far as the actual elevation and windage adjustments, it's fantastic. There are very positive clicks. You have to adjust it with a small jeweler's screwdriver, but each click is 1 MOA. So if you're zeroing at 10 to 12 yards, that's going to be about 10 clicks to get 1 inch of movement. So just kind of keep that in mind. But that said, you're not guessing when you've made an adjustment. The click is very tactile and audible, so you know that you've made it. It's very, very good. Now, as I mentioned, the housing on the unit is very, very thick. It's going to make backup irons, especially if you co-witness, be absolutely gigantic. The good news about the Deltapoint Pro is that If you don't have backup irons on your specific pistol, you can use the dovetail slot on the back of the optic itself to buy the rear sight from Leupold, which is fully adjustable, to use as a co-witness set of irons. The only caveat to that being is you have to be able to buy a specific front sight, probably from Dawson Precision, that will co-witness with your given gun. And that may or may not be available depending on which pistol you're mounting it on. Like the Canik guys probably won't get any love from Dawson, but if you're shooting a Glock or a CZ or something like that, there probably is going to be an option available to you. Now, as I mentioned, the dot is very rugged. I've got 3 of them. One of them has about 6,000 rounds of use, one has about 4,000 rounds of use, and the other has about 1,000 rounds of use. It hasn't really gotten much use. I got that one used and just put it on the gun to kind of check function. Shot 500 rounds, put it back in the box. So the gun with the 6,000 round use was used as a carry gun for about 4 months before it became relegated to a competition gun. And it was carried pretty much every day for 4 months. That one, the battery life was fantastic. After 8 months, I changed the battery simply because I felt guilty. Whereas the 4,000 round one, I'd be lucky if I could make it 3 or 4 weeks with the dot always being on with that shake awake technology. Especially in the cold, that became a problem. I've noticed in the cold, if I pick the gun up in about 40-degree temperatures, I can actually get the gun up and to my eye before the shake awake will kick on and the dot comes on. I haven't experienced that on the 6 Hour Romeo 1, and I don't know if it's just a cold weather thing, but cold weather's heck on batteries and electronics in general, so maybe it has something to do with that. Generally speaking, in a comfortable climate-controlled environment out to a full sun, very hot Texas day, I haven't had any issues with the shake awake, but that's just something I kind of noticed. Maybe it's my specific unit. I don't know if it's a greater issue. But that 4,000 round optic, it has gone through 2 batteries so far. One that I would turn off with each use. It made it about 6 weeks of everyday dry fire, 1 range session a week, and 1 match a month. And that's okay. It's not a huge annoyance, but when I decided maybe it was all the turning it on and turning it off, testing that to see if the motion activated sensor would save the battery and make it go longer, it only lasted about 3 weeks. So if you're not going to use it, but for a range gun, do turn it off between uses. The motion sensor can preserve the battery life, but it's probably better to just turn it off if you're not using it. That all said, neither one of those dots has lost 0. Both dots have been very, very robust and done everything I needed it to do. As far as damage is concerned, I'm not a hard use guy. If you really are concerned about hard use, you might check out Sage Dynamics. He's got great videos where he really tests the optics in more of a combative type scenario, punching fence posts and all that good stuff. So if that's the kind of content you're after, definitely do check that out after the video. So the box is a pretty standard optics box. In the box, you're going to get a little rubber cover for the optic, which is actually pretty good. It does let a little bit of lint up underneath it, but it does accommodate for co-witness irons so long as that they're in the back of the optic where the Leupold irons would go. The optic comes with a Panasonic CR2032 battery. I've got a link in Amazon to a value pack where you can get like 10 or 12 of those suckers for near nothing, less than $1 a piece. Those are what I'd recommend. I got great experience from the Panasonic batteries they came with. The Sony batteries that I ordered didn't last quite as long, so I'm going back to the Panasonics moving forward. Also, you might want to get a lens pin. Again, I've got a link in the description. You can check that out. Lens pin's really good for getting the lint and smudges off your optic. It's something good to do every time you pick up the pistol, to just go ahead and get all the dust off the lens. All in all, I can say that next to maybe the Seymour RTS2, this is probably the best optic from a shooter's experience that you can get. The window is big and the dot is very bright. Whereas with the RMR, it's almost like trying to look through a drinking straw by comparison. It's not a huge difference, and once you have squared away technique, the RMR is totally suitable, but the Deltapoint Pro is a lot nicer. Look at it this way, if RMRs or smaller windows were better, you'd see guys with open guns that sported them. Right now, open guns use Deltapoint Pros and Holosun HS 510Cs and the Romeo 3s if they need to use the MRDS and not just a traditional Seymour railway or slide ride. So all in all, I've been really happy with my Deltapoint Pros. I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10 for the one that has great battery life. I would knock off a point for the thick housing at the body and a point deducted for the weight, as the Deltapoint Pro is one of the heavier optics, weighing in at about 1.8 ounces. For the optic that is getting really bad battery life, I'd still give that one about a 7 out of 10. So there's no way of knowing which kind of Deltapoint Pro you're gonna get, because you're gonna find anecdotes on the internet that go both ways. They say they get great battery life to really terrible, replace the battery every 2 weeks. And in my own experience, it can be anything. As far as the prices go on these, they range between $350 to $400. It seems like the price is clicking up as they become more popular. I think right now they're going for about $375 on Amazon. You can click the link in the description and kick tires yourself. Shop all your favorite websites, Optics Planet, Midway USA. Everybody's typically carries it, but it ranges between about $350 to about $400, with it typically being about $375. Now that price point is really steep. A lot of people are gonna be like, well, I can get a Vortex for $230 or whatever, and that absolutely is true, but kind of the prevailing theory is that you can get more uptime out of a Deltapoint Pro and not have to warranty it off. That said, the turnaround on the Deltapoint Pro for warranty work is about 6 to 8 weeks, where Vortex will just send you a new one if it breaks, which is a really good warranty. So that's it, guys. I appreciate you guys checking in. Please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. You can connect with me on Instagram. I'm over there as well, and I have a Facebook page as well. Appreciate a like over there if you could. So that's it, guys. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next one. That is, unless you're still watching, in which case you're a stud, and I appreciate you guys. So the comment game for today is going to be talking about red dot sights and how they don't do nearly enough mechanical or robotic functions to really be viable in self-defense situations. I need you guys to think of the most bizarre and outlandish things you can think of that sights should or shouldn't do, using more batteries, more mechanical mechanisms, anything that would make it more fragile and not work. And because this is the internet and the comments live forever. So get at it, guys. And that's how you earn the creator's heart. And I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you in the next one.